Hello, welcome.
Hi, Christy. Welcome.
Hey.
Good evening.
Hi, Kate.
Hi, good
Hi.
evening.
Good evening. How do we pronounce your name?
Kate. You
Kate.
got it.
Kate, right. Nice to meet you, Kate.
Yes, you too.
We're going to give it a couple minutes and just wait for anybody else who might be tuning in live with us. But let me just take this opportunity since it's just us, Kate and Christy. This is Marjorie.
Nice to meet you, ladies.
So good to see everybody here this evening. And yeah, just in case, imagine that you have everything that you need, but if you don't, we're gonna start at like 7:35 and just kind of get rolling with everything. So I know Marjorie and I were just tuning in ahead of time and we both happen to have like our little yogi teas here.
Yeah.
Same.
Babe, what's your message?
Mine says, what a desolate place would be a world without a flower.
Oh,
I love that.
that.
Look at that tonight with the Bach flowers.
Yes, it
Yeah,
made sense.
amazing.
I love it. Right place, right time.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Okay. I never quite know whether or not to put my phone on do not disturb or if people will be like reaching out for something. So keep it for a minute.
Where are you from, ladies? Kate, where do you live?
I am tuning in from Richmond, Virginia.
Beautiful. And what about you, Christy?
I'm originally from Miami, Florida, but we've been in Naples for 2 years. So
Okay.
West Coast of Florida.
How do you like it there?
I love it.
Oh, cool.
Very
It's
happy here.
different. Different
Much
than
more
Miami.
calm.
Yeah, Miami is going a little crazy.
Yes.
Yes, yes. And actually, if you want, I know we just did those in introductions a little bit here, but if you want to put your name in the chat and where you are tuning in from, that would be great. And then anybody else who comes in, you know, can see that and can add. So welcome. As we're getting ready and getting started, just feel free to add your name in the chat and where you're tuning in from. And perfect timing. So and I'm going to go ahead. Moment. Beautiful. So welcome everybody. I've just gone ahead and muted everyone. So just in case there's background noise or anything, and there will be some opportunities to open that up. So if you need help, Marjorie or I can always unmute you. But welcome. My name is Becca Marshall, and I am an integrative psychotherapist and health empowerment coach. And also the founder of Active Exchange. So thank you for being here. We're here tonight with Marjorie Veal. Marjorie is a holistic wellness practitioner, and she is a Bach Foundation registered practitioner as well. And all of these things, the Bach flowers support emotional balance in beautiful ways, which is our topic tonight, right? How we are supporting emotional balance with mindfulness and Bach flowers. Marjorie, thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me, Becca. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, and you may have seen that tonight's event is part of a series. So starting in January, we're doing a Nature as Medicine. So these events are called Empowering Health Connection events. And this is part of like the second in a 3-part Nature as Medicine series. The first one we did had to do with supporting our mental health with tapping and essential oils. And so tonight we're going to focus on emotional balance with mindfulness and Bach flowers. And then 2 months from now, which is going to be when our next event is, we're still ironing out the details on the title. but it's about bolstering and shifting our relationship with food and how this relates to our mental, emotional well-being and just our holistic health. So, looking forward to that as well. And these events are always offered the third Thursdays of the month, and they're donation optional, which means that, we just want the door to be able to be open to everyone. Thank you for those of you who did donate toward the event tonight. 80% of all of those proceeds are going directly to the International Body Talk Foundation. And both Marjorie and I happen to be Body Talk practitioners, which is an energy medicine modality that I'm happy to share more about. And everybody here is going to get a full-fledged taste of it tonight, because we're going to do an energy medicine activation a little bit later. And whether you're tuning in later or whether you're here with us tonight, you'll get to experience that and reap the benefits of energy medicine, which is amazing. So also know, if you have any questions or things pop up, feel free to put them in the chat. Either Marjorie or I will, but just be kind of taking notice of that. And there will be an opportunity where we open for questions and reflections. So you can see here, if you're taking a look at this slide, that we're going to do that for sure as we get towards the end, so we can just kind of hear from everybody what's going on. But we'll likely be weaving some of that throughout this event as well. We want it to be collaborative and engaging for everybody that's here. So you probably saw when you were tuning in and first signing on, we are recording. So just know that, when it does come to shares, that the event is being recorded. And so just, share to your comfort level, because it's possible that this could be shared or used at other times, some of the content and resources from this event. So just keeping that in mind. And this is a little outline, right? So we want this to be a safe and comfortable environment for all of you. And we're going to move through some different discussions, experiential practices, that Body Talk energy medicine activation, and then a little, questions, reflections, comments. And as we're here, let's begin by taking a moment together to arrive. So I'm going to invite you, and I see some people who are familiar with this, already inviting their body into a stance that feels good, making any adjustments in the physical body, perhaps placing your feet on the ground or just noticing where they are. You might invite the eyes to close or the lids to lower. And just for this time, I'm going to keep my eyes open in case that's more comfortable for anyone. And let's together invite a full breath in, breathing in, and opening to a smooth, gentle exhale, lengthening the breath, releasing. We're going to do this a few times together. Full breath, opening to receive, and smooth, gentle exhale, possibly loosening the jaw, softening through the shoulders. One more time, full breath in. Imagine you could bring the breath all the way down, even through the lower torso, toward the hips. And smooth exhale, releasing, softening. Feeling into the groundedness of self here and now. Perhaps this is in the sits bones, in the feet, noticing where the hands lie. And allowing the breath to resume into its natural rhythm. Just taking note of how this flows. Maybe it's short, maybe it's long, without judgment, allowing the breath to be just as it is. Perhaps inviting another full breath if this feels welcome. And on this breath, just taking note of all that has unfolded today, inviting the energies of your day to arrive right here. Those that we're ready to release, we can release with each exhale. And those that want to sit and hang and be with us, whether or not we want them here, are welcome too. Inviting one more full breath, calling in any intentions that you have for this time together today. And on the exhale, imagine gently releasing, softening, allowing whatever's here to unfold. Breathing. One more full breath in. Exhaling and releasing. Following the sound, inviting the self into a gentle transition, perhaps opening the eyes if they've been closed. And just noticing what feels right to you tonight. It's lovely when we are able to have our videos on and this connection together. And if that's not available or if that doesn't feel comfortable for you, that's okay too. So just knowing that, you're welcome to be with that, and that it's nice for Marjorie, for I, as we're moving through material, and for everybody else that's here also to really see, and I'm going to go back here for a second, to see that we are, even though we're connecting virtually from different places all around, which if you've just joined us, please put your name and where you're tuning in from in the chat. But this is the type of environment we want to create. Like we're sitting around together as if we're, around this campfire or around someone's kitchen table, and we're here to connect. So as we talk about emotional balance this evening, it's important that we begin with, how do we define it? And thinking about our own experience. And so I'm going to invite you to reflect on this for a moment, and perhaps even putting some of this in the chat. When we are in a state, or when you are in a state of emotional balance, what does this feel like for you? What does it feel like in the body, in the mind, when you would call the state that you're in balance? And to that same end, what about when we're feeling imbalance? And so just taking a moment, you might just jot it down for yourself, or even take note in your heart. What does that feel like when we would say, oh yeah, I'm feeling balance versus imbalance? Okay, beautiful. So welcome everyone. Corey coming in from Raleigh, and Christy from Naples, Florida this evening. Kate, thanks for coming from Virginia. I know I'm here. I'm actually in Kona, Hawaii today. And Marjorie, you're in Miami at the moment, Miami, Florida as well. Yeah, beautiful. So with this in mind, we're gonna move in and talk a little bit more about this. So emotional balance, right? Having a sense of self-control in the face of the range of emotions. We're going to talk a lot about this tonight. The ability to remain calm and clear-headed so that we can respond versus react. Right? Why? When we are in this place, when we feel like, I call it being in the driver's seat, when we're in the driver's seat of our emotions, when we're responsive, it doesn't mean that we're just feeling pleasant and we're just feeling at that range, but it means that we are very often embodied, right? And this allows us to manage what's happening in our emotional state so that we're in the driver's seat versus the emotion being in the driver's seat. And it allows us to nurture and care for those emotions as they arise. So if we come back to these questions, when we're in a state of emotional balance, so Thank you. Christy shares emotional balance feels like flow, feels like ease. This is a word that Marjorie and I were speaking about tonight. Like, let's let it be easy. Let's feel into this ease, this flow. It's like, okay, things are working out for me. It's that like, oh yeah, green light, on to the next. I know which way to go, right? And the imbalance can feel chaotic. It can feel heavy, right? And to use some of those terms, the balance, to the contrary, can feel light, right? Again, with that ease. The chaotic or disorganized, I don't know how it's been for you guys this week, but I've had the opportunity to work with people one-on-one around their emotional stability and balance, and people have been feeling disconnected, like part of my like physical body is different than where my mental body is, and my spiritual body is different than my emotional body. And it's almost this sense sometimes of disjointedness that can happen when we're feeling out of balance. It might feel like confusion, difficulty making decisions, feeling perhaps overwhelmed, or like, oh my gosh, if one more thing comes in, I'm at my breaking point. Versus a state of emotional balance where it's like, no, 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 sure, I'm open to this. Oh, you've got something going on in your life that's weighing on you? Tell me about it. I can receive this. I have the capacity for that right now. Right? So when we are able to be in that state of emotional balance, we're able to spread ripples of calm, right? So to those around us, those that we're guiding, whether it's clients, whether it's children, whether it's just other people that we're in relationship with, employees, right? Whatever that is. And I love this surfing image because one of my favorite quotes comes from John Kabat-Zinn, and he says, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn how to surf. And that, for me, that's one of my favorite definitions of emotional balance, learning how to surf. Sometimes we also refer to this as emotional regulation or emotional stability. I want to feel stable in my emotions. And emotional balance is not the same thing as getting into and remaining in pleasant states of being. If you see, this image here that I found, it's like that, like the flow, right? Like Christy was saying, like to be in a state of balance, it feels like that. And yet even there, like with these birds, they can't just stay and glide the whole time. They're gonna have to flap their wings. They're gonna have to move. They're gonna have to land. They're gonna have to come down for water. But here in this image, they're flying high. And emotional balance isn't the same thing as flying high all the time. This is contrary to cultural belief. There's a collective myth in our culture, and that we can fly high and we can stay there, and that's where we want to be. And this actually isn't the natural flow of things. And I love bringing in nature. I love observing nature to teach me about what's going on inside of me. It's a beautiful image. So emotional stability, regulation, balance is the capacity to remain aware, open, responsive while we're in the presence of any emotion. And Christy shared, I recently read a quote that balance does not equal stillness. There is still movement in the balancing. Yeah, I absolutely love that. It's like, makes me think of like, talk about driving a car, that metaphor. It's like, we don't just drive and like stand still. Like our hands, they're moving all the time. They're continuing, the wheel is moving, right? There are these different things. And so there's movement in the balancing. This topic about emotions and emotional balance, it's vast, it's deep, right? It's like the ocean. We've got the conscious knowing, we've got the unconscious stuff that goes on. And we're going to cover some of this today between what Marjorie is sharing and what we're going through now. But either way, the intention is for you to walk away with tools that can help you to cultivate and to nurture emotional balance in your life and in our lives, right? Our lifestyle medicine. And I've lately been doing this workout class. It ties in emotional regulation with it. It's called The Class. And they offer on demand as well as in person and live stream and all these things. And one of the things they say is like, to begin, just begin. Just begin. Love that. So what's the first step when it comes to emotional balance? The first step is to know where we're going. What is our direction? What is the aim? Often to know this, we have to recognize, or we get to recognize where we're not going, right? Knowing what we don't want or where we're not going gives us clarity about where we are going. Excuse me one moment. So I mentioned this before, this cultural myth that like happiness is the range that we should be in. And that, you know, there's this belief, oftentimes social media sends these signals to us that say like, you know, everyone else is there. They're already there. They're always there. And we should be too. And there's a challenge with this because, you know, moving through the ebbs and flows, the natural movement and balance, you know, that is here, well, it's natural. It's natural for there to be movement. And when we have an expectation that stillness or stuckness is what we should be doing or where we should be, this adds messages of judgment, could potentially criticism, that tells us things should be different than how they are. And that, talk about weight, the lightness or the heaviness of something. I mean, I'm just going to turn that to you guys for a moment, right? Like, what does that feel like to feel like you should be somewhere other than where you are? It's tough. Kate shared, I'm envisioning the balancing poses in yoga and the trembling and sometimes falling that comes with it. Yes, you know, holding that pose. And I love the instructors that remind us in those moments to laugh, right? Like, let's bring in playfulness. And here in Hawaii the other day, I was out at the beach and I was watching the surfers. And, you know, they're like surrendering to these waves. And they're just like letting them come over the top of them. And maybe they're catching one and they're like flying off the surfboard, you know, and yet they're out there. You know, I didn't see a single one like stammer out of the water and onto the beach and throw their board. It's like, which I'm sure happens, you know, this is part of our human experience, but like, can we be playful with it as we're working with this balance? So, you know, one of the challenges with this cultural myth is when the struggle and blame, you know, can get turned toward the self, you know, that shoulding on ourself. And we can feel like we're failing. It can become very personal at times. The struggle to try to stay within a limited range doesn't actually serve our sense of emotional balance. And actually it unintentionally activates, right? It's like we've got our best motives in mind, our best intentions, but it unintentionally activates instability, emotional imbalance, and definitely layers of discomfort, dis-ease, and pain. Mindfulness, right? Mindfulness is the awareness that arises from paying attention. The awareness that arises from paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. I love this, right? Because mindfulness is a practice. To think about it also as an awareness, right? It is an awareness practice that doesn't just happen when we're in autopilot. Like, we have to choose to engage this. We have to choose to pay attention on purpose in the here and now. All of us, right? Let's just take a breath. Let's feel again into our sit bones. And maybe taking another breath and exhaling. And in a way, sometimes, and life ebbs and flows with different things, right? Sometimes if we see this octopus, right, maybe we're just holding one. And other times, like we're juggling these things, you know, how else could we do all the incredible things? Like we are multifaceted beings. We wear different hats, we play different roles, all the things. How could we do that, you know, how could we do that in alignment with our intention of who we are? If we aren't paying attention on purpose in the here and now and practicing this critical piece of doing it non-judgmentally, right? Because sometimes one of these boxes is going to fall, or maybe all of them at the same time. And that's just part of what we get to move through in life. How do we handle it when that happens? Life and daily action, or daily life and action. What happens in your mental emotional states across a given day? You know, and if you're open to sharing, right? Like what happens if you think about it in relationship to that myth, that collective cultural myth? In a given day, do you feel like in general, in a given day, week, month, that you do, or maybe anyone you know, but let's keep it close to home, right? But that could be a helpful place if it's challenging to feel like, oh, I don't really know about me. Okay, well, think about somebody else. What do you see in that coworker or that significant other or that child or, you know, any other human, right? What is the truth? And I don't know if you can see it, but there's a little gas gauge here. And right, because the gauge changes. Sometimes we feel full, we feel ready to take on more. Sometimes we feel more empty. And this can change. Sometimes in a given day, my emotional state might be at that same level of full all day long. Sometimes, you know, for a week, but really, if I'm really paying attention, there is fluctuation, right? There is movement in that balance. It comes up, it comes down. We need to pause, we need to get gas, right? What does that look like? And so just thinking about what is the truth of this for you, right? It's natural for us to feel all the aspects that you see here. This is a scale about our emotional experience. I like to call it the emotional feeling tones, right? Because also in our culture, we have, well, as we're talking about this collective myth, right? But going along with it, we often carry very dualistic views. Dualistic is like black and white thinking, good and bad. And it's very, very common that we apply this to our emotional states. I don't feel good. I'm feeling bad or I'm feeling good. And of course, like that's just our vernacular. That's just how we talk. But if we're really reflecting on it, and we're reflecting mindfully and we're working to remove layers of sort of hidden judgment. Here is a way that we're able to do that with some of these words and feeling into the tone. Corey, thanks for being here. You'll definitely get the replay in an email. We appreciate your presence. So look forward to hearing from you and welcome any feedback. So pleasant, neutral, and unpleasant. How are we within this range of our emotional experience? Are we feeling something? And just taking a moment, tuning in right now. Based on this scale, what might you consider or label your current experience to be? Maybe we can just take a breath into that. And smooth exhale. Would you say that at this moment you're feeling pleasant? Would you say that at this moment the emotional state is feeling unpleasant? Perhaps even neutral. Perhaps it's like, oh, well, not really one or the other, just somewhere in there, right? And we're talking about the emotional feeling tones, but I also want to share that like our emotional experience is sort of like an umbrella, right? Here's our emotional experience, and there are parts of that that come together like a triangle. Going along with that are the sensations in our body, right? So what are we feeling that contributes? Right? What are we feeling in the sensational level? I've got tension, I've got ease in my body. What are the behaviors? What do we want to do or what are we doing? So sometimes this can show up as like, I want to lay down. I'm restless. I want to get up. I want to move. I don't want to sit here, right? So what is the behavior? What is the sensation in the body? And what are we thinking? So these are different aspects as well that tie into the emotional feeling tones. So it might have come up for you, or it might come up, for anybody watching this in the future, that it's like, okay, well, I don't really know what my emotions are, but my body's feeling unpleasant, right? Or my thoughts are, feeling kind of calm in my body. So maybe these are indicators that can help us see where we are in this range. And the entire range is a natural, normal part of our human experience. As we balance and as things move, we will feel into the unpleasant, and we are not to blame for this. There might be things we can do to support us in shifting to feeling more pleasant, but we want to take care not to necessarily get stuck on having the pleasant as the ideal, because the entire range is informing us. This is part of our emotional internal GPS system, right? It's informing us. This is how we're in relationship with our bodies. If you have ever had an experience where you have maybe felt the influence of social media, or felt yourself feeling like, oh, I was happy, I want to get back there, or, I was like really enjoying this relationship when these things were happening in it. I want that to happen again. I don't want it to move. What has it felt like to be moving toward that end, if that has been ever part of your experience? Like kind of this idea of like, have you ever bought into that cultural myth? And what did that feel like? And, even if it isn't aligned with our preference, what does it feel like to stand in relationship with our emotional states when we know the truth? Right? So as we open to the truth of things, just considering how might it feel, or how might it have felt to try to hold on, or to try to, should on ourselves to get ourselves into a different place. And knowing that, we could be anywhere on this range. And for every single person pretty much that I know, it is not our preference to be in the unpleasant. However, it happens. And so when we're there, can we open to it? So here, just another little tool, and we're going to be sharing this, but this is an emotional thermometer, and you can see the different colors in this range. That 7, where we have that color change, it's a little bit cut off in this image, but it says this is the tipping point, right? And this little hand brain describes what happens. So as our emotional states, the emotional thermometer is a representation of the intensity. Okay, are we at a 1? Are we all the way up at a 10? And that the state of a 7, in approximation, right? This is a little bit different for everybody, but that indicates a tipping point where we actually go offline, and the mind-body connection that is available when we are present, that is more available when we're practicing non-judgment, and when we're tuned in, that mind-body connection, when the intensity rises. And this can happen with pleasant and unpleasant emotional experiences, right? Think about, oh my gosh, I'm elated, I'm so excited, right? I might be jumping around. I'm not necessarily thinking about what's happening with the people around me. I could like flip my lid. I might be acting in a place where my mind and body aren't together. Mindfulness invites us into a mindful embrace, right? Holding all of it. And sometimes this could even mean the sadness, the despair, right? With calm when we can. We don't always feel calm. Non-judgment, curiosity, to be attentive, to turn toward. Christy shares, I'm being more mindful of that with my daughters. When they're upset or they're hurting, I help them tune into it for a bit rather than wanting to rescue them. Yeah, yeah. From the pain, or to make it feel wrong. I'm teaching them that teaching them this is making it easier to tune into it for myself. Whew, thank you for sharing that. Yes. Yes, right. It's impossible to not be in the present moment with others when we're in the present moment ourselves, and vice versa, right? If we want to show up in the present moment, and this normalizing, oh, you're feeling hurt. Okay, I see you're sad right now. This must hurt. Wow, that can be really hard, right? Versus, and this can be true for everyone. This is especially true for women. We, when we talk about conditioning and cultural myths, we are conditioned, whether we like to admit it or not, into this nurturing role, into looking to fix it. And really, in a lot of ways, the masculine energy and men anywhere in the gender spectrum, we all are conditioned. We want to jump into fixing, to making it feel better. And so this practice, mindfulness, invites us to be with what is. And I love this embrace. Like, it takes a community. It really takes a community, because it's not always easy to be with the different levels of intensity that we move through. As we practice this, we get into the driver's seat. We feel that freedom. We feel that flow. We're no longer shoulding on ourselves, trying to get someplace where we aren't already, right? It's like, look at this incredible image. Like, to me, I don't know what it speaks to you, but like joy, freedom, it's like I can feel the air, feel the breeze, feel the sunshine. She does not look like she's so concerned about where she's going. Hopefully she knows where she's going, right? Because that's important too. Without this mindfulness, we're at risk, right? We're at risk of stepping out of alignment with our personal values, with the truth of how we are and how we actually feel about things, right? It's like, yes, I don't want you to have a boo-boo, but I do want to teach you how we can show up to the boo-boos that we will have in our lives. And we take some breaths. Those different levels of emotional intensity, it's like being under the influence. We are under the influence. Our body chemistry is actually under the influence of the heightened emotional states. And I think Marjorie's going to share some more about this and about how to balance the body chemistry as we dive into the piece about Bach flowers. As we increase our awareness is the door to choice. Awareness is the door to choice. So as we increase our awareness, our mindful awareness, we increase our capacity to choose. When we do this time and again, right, honing our skill to choose, we're impacting our level of trust in ourself. Right? This builds our self-esteem, this builds our confidence. We get to gain stability and knowing I may not prefer where I am, but this is where I am. I'm not at fault for it. I might be able to influence it in a more desirable way, but this too is part of my natural experience. How do we do this? We step into a mindful pause. Right? We've been doing this throughout this event, resourcing, finding the body, finding the breath. We can do this by tuning in. Where are our feet? Let's do this together right here and now, inviting a full breath And just noticing the sensations in the feet. Releasing this breath, feeling into your next exhale. And again, let's breathe in mindfully with that awareness of this breath coming in. Sometimes we call these mindful pauses resourcing. How do we get into the here and now? And I'm going to use this example again because Christy is such a good example. Like when someone's crying in front of us, when it's our babies, when it's our loved ones, when it's our friends, when it's a colleague, it often can trigger that reactive response of wanting to jump in and fix and make it better. And, how do we stop and pause and be there and see, what do they actually need? What is this moment actually calling for, whether it's outside of myself or inside myself? Recognizing what's here. I love these little balloons, right? They show all these different emotional states. Are we angry? Are we confused? Are we happy? Are we sad? Are we irritated? Are we restless, right? Naming the emotion, recognizing. It's like coming to the stop sign and saying, okay, where am I headed? All right, which way am I turning right now? Left, right, straight? Okay, we're reorienting. And for all of us that drive, like this happens regularly and so fast and on autopilot. Mindfulness invites us to know that it's happening as it's happening. And we're talking about it tonight in relationship with our emotional response. Stepping into aligned response. Right, we're going to talk more about this, but and we've already talked about some of this. How do we do that? So we pause, we recognize what's here, and then what's needed? Are we turning left? Are we turning right? Do we keep going straight? Do we pull over? Is it time for gas? And so what might this be? It might be taking time away, journaling. We're going to talk specifically about Bach flowers as a support for this tonight. And so just for a few moments, and then I'm about to turn this over to Marjorie so she can move in and share more specifically. But I'm going to invite everyone just to take a moment. We're going to do a little self-reflection here. And first, considering something, you can close your eyes, you can keep your eyes open, but considering something that's going on in your life right now, or maybe that was earlier in the week, that fell into the unpleasant range on that scale. And just identifying that. Maybe there was a circumstance, maybe there were words exchanged, maybe it, could be anything. So just calling that up, some unpleasant experience, whatever comes to the top of the mind, noticing what that is, taking a pause. Maybe noticing where you feel that in the body or what you might name the emotion. Again, it could be discomfort in the body, could be a thought stream, confusion, indecision. Noticing where you might place it on that emotional thermometer scale. And then just taking a breath, breathing in, exhaling, knowing what you did in that moment. Maybe there was a way that you responded in alignment. Maybe there was a way that there was reaction or reactivity that you felt disconnected from your body. You might have acted in a way that was not in alignment with how you would actually want to show up. Everything is fine. All of that is human. And then just taking a full breath, we're going to sweep through, we're going to cleanse this out of our thought stream for a moment. Deep breath in and whoosh, just exhaling. We're going to do that again. Full breath in. Imagine cleansing through this whole body mind. And whoosh, exhaling. Good. Just shake that out a little bit. And then we're just going to take about 30 seconds and we're going to do the same thing with the other end of that emotional feelings tone. So maybe closing the eyes if that feels welcome and calling up a pleasant experience, something that felt in that pleasant range, an interaction, a thought, an insight, anything, whatever comes top of mind is perfectly fine. And taking a breath, feeling into how that felt. Maybe it's happening right now. Maybe it happened earlier this week. Noticing what you might name or call that emotional state. Noticing perhaps the level of intensity. Was it an emotional, pleasant experience at a level of a 3, at a level of a 7, at a level of a 10? And just considering how you showed up in relationship to it. Was there responsiveness? Was there some reactivity? Knowing that everything is welcome. There's no judgment here. Beautiful. And inviting a full breath, receiving. Exhaling. Cleansing that out again. Even though this one was pleasant, we're going to do the same thing. Breathing in. And exhaling. Releasing that out, shaking that out of the body a little bit. Feeling into the feet, feeling into the sit bones. Perhaps inviting another breath as we show up again, right here and now. And just noting if there's anything you want to share about this, feel free to do so in the chat. If there's anything you want to jot down for yourself, your own insights or realizations. Right? We get to look at everything. Sometimes we call it the shadow and the light, the pleasant and the unpleasant, the things we're proud of and we want to share, the things we're not and we wish we could change, right? We want to look at it all. This is part of that mindful embrace. And thinking about how we show up to that and supporting ourselves in emotional balance. I'm going to shift gears and turn this over to you, Marjorie. So,
All right. Thank you, Becca.
Thank you.
All right, ladies, just a quick show of hands if you've never heard of Bach Flower Remedies. Okay, so you've heard of them. Awesome. Okay, so I'm going to go briefly to explain what they're about, what they are, how they work. And if you know them a little bit already, that's great. Probably you know most of the rescue remedy, right? So I'm going to be talking to you really about all the others. Obviously, we won't have time to go through the list of all of them one by one, right? But really to give you an idea how they can be used as a mindfulness tool. So basically what the Bach flowers are, natural self-healing remedy, 38 of them. You probably saw the little video that I made, especially for today. So they're here. Let me show them to you again, the whole 38 remedies right here. And you have one for each mood, emotion, and also personality trait that covers the whole spectrum of human emotions, basically, right? So what I love so much about them, and thank you, Becca, so much for this piece on mindfulness, because this is exactly how we use this system. And thank you also for sharing about the myth part of this, because this is a very important part on how to use this. And there is some misunderstanding on how we use it today. A lot of us want to be more happy, more of this, we want more of that. And you will see, to use the flowers, we have to go the other way around. So first, briefly, I don't want to bore you with the whole history of the system, but it was created by Dr. Edward Bach almost 100 years ago. And he was a doctor, he was a physician, a well-renowned one in England. And he started to get a little frustrated, seeing how we focus only on disease and symptom rather than on the person as a whole. So he became a homeopath, but he also believed that we could find something even more simpler to use in nature. And he was very frustrated also with the fact that the doctors, the medical field kind of takes the power away from the patients, right? So he wanted to create something so simple that it could be used by everyone. It's a self-healing tool. That's why it's so amazing too. So basically what they do, they work on our emotional body. So that's perfect topic for the day. So how can we bring balance there? So also I'd like to explain how they work, because we don't really have, it's energy medicine. So there is not really scientific proof until now to explain how they work, but I like to use them music, or everything is vibration, right? So I like to use the flowers like a musical note, really. We found that each flower has a specific vibrational pattern, a specific, very unique signature, just like our emotions, just like music. Let's say you listen to heavy metal, it's not going to resonate the same and vibrate the same that you if you listen to very nostalgic love song, right? It's not going to make you feel the same way. It's not going to vibrate the same. So basically, that's a way we can really understand how they work. So by finding the right flower, the right vibration according to what you're feeling at the moment, right? It's going to help bring balance. It's basically flooding the opposing virtue into your own vibration. There is one quote that I like to share with you. Let me see, it's right here, from Dr. Edward Bach. I think it's so beautiful and so poetic. Let me share it right here. Let me see. All right, right here. Oop. Can you see this? All right, so that's what it says about how the remedy works. The action of these remedies is to raise our vibrations and open up our channels for the reception of our spiritual self, to flood our natures with the particular virtue we need and wash out from us any fault which is causing harm. They are able, like beautiful music or any glorious uplifting thing which gives us inspiration, to raise our very natures and bring us nearer to our souls, and by that very act bring us peace and relieve our sufferings. They cure not by attacking the disease, but by flooding our bodies with the beautiful vibrations of our higher nature, in the presence of whom disease melts away as snow in the sunshine. I think it's just so beautiful. All right. So here is a list of, even if we don't have time to go through all of them, I really want to show you this, and you'll have access to it, right? We'll give it to you, this handout, so you can have a list of all the remedies. Of course, you also have the full, more thorough description on the Bach Center website, but this can give you an idea. See, let's keep it simple. Let's go, the emotion of fear. I'm feeling worried. I'm afraid of going to the dentist. Very simple. See that little remedy here, Mimulus? Everyday fear of things we can name. Something you're worried about, you're afraid about, that you can name, right? Mimulus would help you. Another one, to keep it simple, who has never felt guilty, right? So pine is a beautiful, beautiful remedy for guilt and self-blame, right? So we have so many here, 38, but at the same time, it's very simple because it's only 38 remedies. It's not hundreds or thousands of remedies like the pharmaceuticals, or homeopathy carries also a lot of remedies, and you need to rely on someone, right? A doctor or a professional. And with this system, you can really learn it on your own. So here. So basically, that's how they work and how they can be used as a mindfulness tool. And I love the piece that Becca really explained is, that's what I love so much with the flowers, that we actually, to select the flowers, we need to focus on the negative, unpleasant, let's call it that. There's no good or bad using the system. It's about acknowledging what's feeling unpleasant at the moment. It's not so much choosing them based on what we want more of, right? It's about really acknowledging what is, how we're feeling, what is feeling unpleasant, or because there is a flower for when we're feeling also overexcited, right? And thank you, Becca, because when you made us self-reflect, I had a piece coming. I was like, oh, feeling so awesome because I was being overexcited of something, but then came an overreaction, and then came disappointment. So too much of something also pleasant is not a good thing. So what they do, they help really bring balance, right? So whatever is out of balance at the moment, whatever you're feeling, is identifying it, acknowledging it right here, right now, right? And that's it, and picking the right flower. There is, it's, as you said, Becca, so well also, using the system, you become the observer. It allows you to become the observer with non-judgment of whatever is. And all those 38 flowers, they basically carry all the human emotions, right? So we carry them inside of us. So it allows us that mindfulness of that presence with what's going on at the moment, with no judgment. That's the beauty of it. So when can we use those remedies? Let me pull up a little slide here. When can we use them? So we can use them for either passing mood, like for example, let's say mustard right here, when we feel deep gloom for no reason, right? This is a passing mood. We're not always like that, right? Obviously, hopefully. So whenever you have, everything is great, you have the best day, you're good, you're in a good place, but then all of a sudden you have this dark cloud coming over you and it's very uncomfortable, right? This can help bring balance with that. So that's a passing mood. It can also be used for personality traits. And I want to give you a few examples of remedies that can be helpful for that. Personality trait, for example, impatience. And thank you again, Becca, for that beautiful piece of reflection, because I could feel that in me, that little impatience, right? It's going to be my turn to speak, and I could feel the tension here, and I could feel that. So thank you for bringing me back into that present moment. And I did put a couple of drops of impatience in my tea, and that helped right away, brought me back to balance. So we can have that, that can be a mood that's happening right now, but I tend to be that also quite all the time. So that's an aspect of my personality that I can work on with the flower, right? And that work on bringing balance to it. There is another one here. Sorry, it's all the way down to the that I love. It's called water violet, the one in the bottom here. I love all of them, but some of them resonate with me more than others. It can really be used as a personality flower. It's when we like our solitude, we kind of like to be alone. We avoid social gathering, right? But we tend that put out of balance, it can leave us isolated. We can find ourselves lonely at times. So it kind of helps to warm the relationship with others, right? So that's to give you an example how some remedies can be used for moods only, and some others more to help bring balance on our personality as well. Another one very useful I wanted to share, Star of Bethlehem for shock, when we lost someone we love and we're grieving, right? It helps us navigate, basically. It doesn't take away the emotion, and that's very important to know. It doesn't change who we are. Why? Because we are perfect as we are, exactly as we are, but it just helps us navigate with more ease, right? And it brings self-awareness. I want to share a little example. I really like to use the Russian doll, and we're going to start from scratch, because basically what they do not change us. They do not remove any emotion. If anything, they actually bring us closer to who we are, to our higher self, really, to our true nature, right? So to keep an example very simple, this is me, let's say yesterday, carefree and happy, like a little child, all good, right? Neutral. And then let's say I have an argument with my husband at night, right? And I go to bed. Super upset, and I can't sleep because I'm reliving the whole thing in my mind over and over and over again, right? And then of the alarm rings in the morning, I need to go to work, and I am so irritated, snappy, and I'm super impatient, even more than usual, right? Because I'm going to be late. I'm really like bitching at everyone on the road, honking at everyone, and I arrive at work and I am horrible with everyone, right? I'm in the worst mood. I'm like barking orders at everyone. I'm being terrible. Then the day finally ends. I go back home, and on the drive home, I start reflecting on my day and what a horrible person I've been. And I start feeling terrible about this. Horrible. I start feeling really guilty. And then I arrive home and I see my husband there pretending like nothing has happened, right? He's having the best day. And I feel so resentful about him right now, right? I don't even want him to come near me. I don't even want him to talk to me. So this is me now. right? This is me now after only 24 hours. Okay, so imagine a lifetime of not being mindful of our emotions, of not being mindful of what's going on with ourselves, right? So really what I love about this system so much, we kind of spend so much time also trying to figure out the why, the how, trying to go to the root of the trauma. What I love with this system really is that we don't need to do that anymore, right? What is it that I'm feeling right here, right now? Well, I'm feeling resentful. I'm hating him right now, right? It's all his fault anyway. I'm feeling like a victim. Well, there's a flower for that. And we work from the top layer. It helps bring balance back, and it also lifts up the layer so we can continue to work to the next one. Right? So it is a self-awareness tool. It is a mindfulness tool, and it works only if we sit and acknowledge what it is that we're feeling at the moment, not what we want to achieve more of. Right? Because there is a flower for self-esteem, but and that's the mistake a lot of people do. They come in and I want more self-esteem. I want to be more happy. And this is what I love this so much, because it doesn't work like that at all. Like, tell me where you feel out of balance right now. Where is it that you feel out of balance? Honor it, acknowledge it, welcome it, and only then you can have the magic of the flower to help you through, right? They're not going to take it away. They're going to be grateful that you've acknowledged them, right? And bring the balance back. So as Becca was saying, you can respond from that place to life, right? Instead of me then being bitching at everybody and then coming back to my husband and when being really resentful about him, right? So this is a beautiful tool to do that. But then if you have layers and layers and layers, well, the flowers will help you work on them and reveal. And then you can come to that place and to that beautiful core, right? Where really you're happy, meaning you're at peace, you're balanced, and you can, make decisions from that place, healthy ones. So what you can do to use the flowers, and this is what I wanted to show you next, how to take them first, And don't worry, this is going to be on the handout that we're going to give you. You're going to have a list of all the flowers, the 38. This is fun, you can explore. And also I want to share with you how to take them, right? Right here. So how you take the flowers? So you can take them directly from the little bottle that you buy at the store, Whole Foods or all the health food store that you find. You can take them directly from this. 1 to 7 remedies, 6 or 7, but like everything in nature, less is more. I've had the most incredible results always with one remedy. So less is more. And you can take 2 drops directly from that bottle that you buy at the store, at least 4 times a day. On the tongue, under the tongue, it doesn't matter. You just want to be careful because it's energy. You don't want to be touching the little glass dropper. That's the only thing you want to be aware of. You can put it in your tea, in the little water, right? And what you can also do, because if you do that, well, the bottle is going to run empty after a week or so, right? You can also prepare from the bottle. You can prepare yourself a remedy mix. So let's say I want to try, I'm going to have impatience because yes, there is a flower impatience for impatience, and a little mimulus. That's what I did actually before because I was a little nervous, right? I always get a little nervous, stuck in front of people. I was a very, very shy child, so I still carry that a little bit with me. So I do put a little mimulus that helps with that. I like to call it the liquid courage. Right, so I did put a few drops in my tea. What you can do is prepare a mixing bottle. I would put 2 drops of impatience, 2 drops of the mimulus in there. Then you top it with spring water. You want to use spring water. Why? Because it's live water, right? So we want to avoid tap water or purified water. So spring water, I like to leave a little bit of room to add a little alcohol, brandy or vodka, something like that, to help the water stabilize. So you don't have to keep it in the fridge. If you don't want to use alcohol, you don't have to, just is best then to be kept in the fridge. All right, and that bottle, if you take 4 drops from that bottle, so it's 2 drops from this, 4 drops if you prepare yourself a remedy bottle, 4 drops at least 4 times a day, right? And that would last you 3 to 4 weeks. So that's wonderful when you want to work on something, let's say a personality trait or something you've identified and you'd like to explore with, right? Like I tend to be impatient all the time, or I tend to be jealous often, right? Or anything that you've identified. And again, there's no good or bad, right? And see what it's going to reveal for us. And as Becca was saying, you can journal, whatever works for you. It is a mindfulness. It is a present. It requires presence to work with the flowers. And it's just so beautiful, beautiful. All right. So I will leave you with this little practical tool to use to remember how it is so simple, right? How to effectively use this system. Even if you don't know all the 38 flowers yet, you're going to have the little handout, and then also the website where you can really look through them more deeply if you want. Focus on the story. What's the story first? Or the situation I find myself in. My story, it was a fake one. I swear I didn't fight with my husband last night. Not last night. So the story was, okay, I had an argument with my husband. I couldn't sleep. And then I was exhausted. I had a horrible day the next day. That's the story. Okay, then the feeling. What am I feeling? What are my emotions in reaction to the story? Right? So depending where you pick it up, just stay with it here and now. If I really looked at it last night, it would have been like, well, I'm thinking about it over and over and over in my mind, and I can't turn it off, and I can't sleep. Well, there is a flower for that, actually, right? It's right here. And it's white chestnut, unwanted thoughts and repetitive mental arguments. Wow, if I had known and be mindful then and take it then to help me come back to that neutral space. Right? But I didn't. So then it started to accumulate and layer and layer. Right? So then once you have the feeling, what are the emotions in reaction to the story, then the remedy. That's it. It's so simple, right? Yet we don't really spend time to sit with ourselves. We can talk about the story. This happened and that happened. This, right? But really, it's about, okay, the story, we have it. Now, what are my emotions in reaction to the story? And based on that, it becomes very easy to pick the remedy, because as you'll see in the list, you have one for pretty much everything. Do we have any questions about? I'll try to cover as much as I could in that little time, right? So I would love to know if you have any questions about the remedies. Okay. Yes, Christy.
Let's see. Can you unmute yourself, Christy? There.
Yes. Hi. I was just wondering, is it good for kids too, or is it, because I know it's alcohol based, I think.
It's a very good question. Yes, it's alcohol based because it's preserved in brandy, but the best for kids, you can prepare a remedy bottle, right? And that way you put only water, right? If you put 2 drops of the remedies that you want them to take, you put in the bottle only spring water, no alcohol for preservation, and you just keep it in the fridge. Okay, and if you want to dilute it even more, the 4 drops that you're supposed to take from there, you can dilute even more in water. You can put them in water. So, I mean, there is no more alcohol left at this point.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, it's safe to use for everyone.
Thank you.
And so the alcohol that it's preserved in, would you say like that is unsafe for kids, or not necessarily, just based on personal preference? Or?
Well, it's not, I mean, you don't want to give them alcohol when they're young, but I mean, if you put 2 drops of this diluted in 30 milliliter, and then you dilute even more in, I mean, it's.
Well, and so I guess I'm saying, like, let's say you don't have that bottle, and let's say something's going
Yeah.
on, and you've got the impatience and you just want to support your child. Is it okay to put that in a
Yes.
glass of water, or is that
Totally. It's
okay?
totally okay. I mean, it's like if you put 2 drops of brandy in a glass of water and give it to them. I mean, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's safe. They used to do, I don't think they do it anymore for that reason. They used to prepare remedies like this with vegetable glycerin instead of the alcohol, but they don't, because they found that by diluting it, the alcohol content is no. You can also put it in some hot water if you want, so then the alcohol evaporates, if really that's a concern. Okay, and they do the rescue remedy. We didn't talk about the rescue, but the rescue, probably you've heard about it. It's really an emergency remedy for any kind of crisis that you have. There you go. Thank you. And that's a mix of 5 flowers. So that's when you don't know the whole system. Today, I really wanted to introduce you to the whole system because a lot of people don't know about it. And they grab the rescue because they want, oh, I'm stressed. Rescue, but it's 5 flowers out of the 38, so you might be needing another one. So sometimes you take the rescue and like, it doesn't do anything for me, just because you needed another one that's not in that mix, right? But they do rescue for kids. That's the only one they do for kids, and there is no alcohol in that.
Marjorie, what about pets? I know we have some pet
Yeah.
owners here. Yeah.
Pets, amazing for pets. Same thing, I have a cat, so what I do for her, I prepare this because I don't want to give her pure alcohol on a treat or something like that. So I prepare this in water, and when I leave or when she gets anxious or things like this, then I ask my husband to put drops on her water on a treat. For the pets, works the best. You can put 2 or 4 drops on a treat, as you know, as many times as you want, but it's always better to prepare this so it's not pure alcohol, right? Pets are very sensitive, but it's amazing for pets, and it works instantly because they have way less layers than we do. Right? So yeah. Any other question, ladies?
Another question. Is it because I know at homeopathics, like you should take it like 10 minutes away from food, and I mean obviously you can mix it with water, but like, is that recommended, or does it not matter if you just need to put it right away? Or
That's the beauty of it, doesn't matter at all. And that's why you came up with this system, even more simpler to use than homeopathy, and everybody can have it at home because there's none of that applies. None of that applies at all. Yeah, it's completely safe with food, outside of food, doesn't matter.
okay.
Awesome. Any other question?
I just have to say, I have a couple Bach flowers that I haven't used in a while, so I couldn't remember which ones they were. And then when you pulled up your sheet, one of them was beach, which is like being annoyed with what other people do, which is my trait that often occurs. So I'm like, oh, I should pull that out and start using it again.
Beautiful. Yeah, beach is a beautiful remedy for when we're feeling a little intolerant over the way other people do things. Beautiful for that. Yeah. Oh yeah, fun is exploring.
Yeah, I'm ready to add it back into my daily use.
Amazing. Well, we'll make sure you get the handout. So that's a quick, easy reference guide. And then if you want more, there is a beautiful description by the Dr. Bach on the Bach Center website, and then we'll give you the link to that as well, so you can dive a little deeper into the remedy if it resonates with you.
And so before we shift gears, just out of curiosity, if anyone wants to share, and I'm not, putting the pressure on, but, with that reflection that we did of something that might be going on now or might have gone on this week, whether pleasant or unpleasant, in that reflection, we looked at the intensity, we looked at like where it was on that scale. And I'm just curious, as we kind of, integrate this information, if anyone wants to share like what came up for them, and maybe Marjorie could help to identify a Bach flower for what's here. I know Kate, you just mentioned one. I know I'll share too. I've got a few Bach flowers here. I've got the rescue remedy. I've got Serato, which is trusting your intuition, and I've got walnut, which is adapting to change. And these three travel with me on these travels, right? It's kind of like my nomadic lifestyle rescue or I'm sorry, Bach flower piece. It's like this is something that is, adapting to changes. I'm being, regularly inviting my whole body mind into that. And, so just curious if anybody wanted to share more or ask. Well, we have Marjorie here, the expert in identifying.
Yeah, if you have a story, feelings that came up, and I'd love to help you with identifying the remedy. Well, we have beach. That's already a good one. I want to say that one is quite special.
You mentioned white chestnut, and I just want to share that, like, white chestnut, that ruminating thoughts, keeping people up at night, that type of thing. I would say, there's a variety of different ones that have come up when I'm working with clients that I, often, mention and just invite them if it's something that they want to consider. But I definitely know a good number of people that have experienced significant results with Bach flowers in general, and just, some beautiful examples top of mind with that particular one, taking, really with one individual, like years of excruciating anxiety that was really dominating their life, no matter all the different things that they were doing, and what made a massive difference when they started to bring the Bach flowers in. And I love how you shared with us tonight, Marjorie, like, what is it doing? Because it is energy medicine, and energy medicine used to be really hard to explain, and you just made it so easy, talking about the vibration and how listening to music impacts our mental emotional state, and this is what we're talking about. How do we impact them in the desired direction of where we're going, while not shaming ourselves that it should be other than where it is? We have to be able to, like, even with the Bach flowers, the number of times that you were also mentioning, like, we do it from the present moment. And when we're shaming, it's really hard to see what's there, because it's like the Russian dolls or those babushka dolls. There's another layer that's sitting over the layer of what we're actually feeling. So much just resonated, around that.
And it's a process that never ends, really. So it's about making peace with it right here, right now. And it's like there's nowhere to go, but what's happening here is the gift, right here, right this minute. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. Christy just shared, like, that's my favorite, right? It's a gentle approach. It feels protective. It feels empowering. 100%. And doing what we're talking about, like engaging mindfulness, being in the present moment, saying what emotion is here. This is not for the faint of heart, like, it definitely leads to the flow and calm and freedom and ease, and it leads to satisfaction and fulfillment, to be able to recognize and be empowered to know, oh my gosh, there are these things that I can do. But this turning toward, I'm just going to go back to, like, our conditioning and the cultural myth, right? Things of this nature, we're learning how to turn toward. And I think having something like Bach flowers, I'll speak for me in my life, helps me, like, reassures me that, like, oh yeah, when I turn toward, I'm also not alone. Yeah. I'm not, like, I can be with what's there, and I can have support with what I find, without shaming it. Betsy shares, beautiful tools for well-being.
Yeah. Yeah, they are like a self-love tool, in my opinion. It's about really embracing all those parts of ourselves that we sometimes rather keep in the dark, and I've been using the system for like 10 years, but there are still some remedies I did not quite connect with. And I know it's those little parts of myself that so it is just having fun with it. And as you said, Becca, beautifully, is being a little bit more light about this whole thing, right? There is no drama, really, just acknowledging what is right here, right now, and that's it. We're all in this together. We all the human experience is about experiencing all of this.
Yeah, huge. Kate just shared, like, instead of shaming, it's a way of acknowledging what's in the present moment, right? It just feels so much more welcoming, right? It's like, what's here right now? And I do want to acknowledge that, we can, balance is, it's moving. Our emotional states are moving. I love the babushka doll. Like, that's so beautiful, like this daily life experience of what can happen in the layers. And also to say that, like, we can get stuck in certain emotional states, whether they're personality traits or emotional states, and that, to know too that Bach flowers can be there for moving emotions, right? Like mustard, and also, like I shared about that example of chronic anxiety and helping to lift that, because vibration is like music. It's like we put on the song, boom, do we align with it or not? Maybe we turn the song off. Maybe we can't handle it right now. Maybe we just need to be in our sadness. Okay. Right. But to know that the option is there, and that is where empowerment lies. We become empowered in our health to know, oh, I can turn left or I can turn right because I'm in the driver's seat and my anxiety isn't driving me down the road anymore. Or when I recognize that it is, I stop, I pause, I find my feet, I notice, right? And so I'm going to shift gears. We're going to bring in a little energy medicine activation, right, to support us all in emotional balance and getting empowered around our health, our well-being, right, like Betsy said. And what's been coming up for me as we're sitting here is being open to engaging support, right? Whether this is from ourselves, our own ability and capacity to turn toward, whether it's from the community, all of us sitting here tonight, anybody else who has registered. It's like that one image of the hands crossing, right? That how we embrace those supports, other people, other tools, pets, our breath, whatever that is. So this is part of what's coming up as the priority for supporting our emotional balance. So I am going to invite you, if you want, to close your eyes, if that feels welcome. If not, you can just lower your gaze. And thank you for listening. Maybe taking this moment, perhaps bringing the hands over the heart, or noticing where else the hands would like to rest, and feeling into this body. Let's take a full breath together, breathing in. Exhaling. Do that a couple more times. Full breath, receiving. And on the exhale, on the releasing, letting it all go. Feeling into the groundedness of self, the sit bones, the legs, the feet, the back. Full breath in. And on this releasing breath, as the breath leaves the body, imagine that release going through the rootedness of self, as if we were directly connected into the loving hands of Mother Earth, just ready to receive anything we're ready to let go of. If it feels welcome to you, maybe thanking the self, thanking this body, this mind, this heart, for showing up here, for receiving this information tonight. There's a lot of options and many things on our lists. Let's take another breath with this acknowledgement. And if it resonates, perhaps offering this gratitude or thanks. Thank you for being here. Feeling into this body and just resting for a few moments in the breath. So we are working with this agenda, this overarching focus for supporting us and opening even more to allow us to turn toward the supports that are available in our life. Present moment, phoning a friend, allowing us to be the learner. Deep breath in. We don't have to know everything. It's okay to ask, to receive. Each exhale, just allowing this receiving a little bit more. first thing coming in is we're going to balance the body chemistry. So if you would like, I'm going to invite you to just take a little lick of saliva on one of your fingers, maybe your index finger, and just rub that right under the collarbone. So we take a little bit of the internal body chemistry and we bring it to the outside, this tender area. And what's coming up is we're working with what we call an intolerance. And so it's as if there's an emotional intolerance in the body to the lack of trust. And this feels, it comes in at a collective level, like there's a collective lack of trust around opening to our vulnerability of what's here. And so through the body chemistry, we're balancing this so that we can open to more trust, which will allow us to, in turn, turn toward our supports with more grace and flow and ease. Deep breath. Okay, so there is a link here. All right, and so we're moving into the musculoskeletal body, and we're going to work with a reciprocal point. And so I'm going to invite you to do this with me together. If you feel like it, you can do it with your physical body, or you can just do it in your mind's eye. But what we're doing is we're linking some points across the torso. So if you would like, you can bring maybe right hand on the left shoulder and left hand on the right hip, just sort of crisscrossing the body and taking a full breath here. Smooth exhale. Take one more breath with this hand position, honoring and acknowledging that left shoulder and that right hip and the connection between these two. Exhaling, beautiful. Feeling into the sit bones, groundedness of the body. And then on this next breath, with ease, with grace, we're going to switch and we're going to take that left hand and bring it over the right shoulder. And we're going to take the right hand and bring it over the left hip. And as we're doing this, inviting a full breath in. And exhaling and just feeling that weight drifting off the shoulders. You don't have to do it alone. My whole body can help to carry what's here. Deep breath in. And exhaling, releasing. Beautiful. If you want, you can bring the hands back to the heart, maybe a hand over the heart, hand over the abdomen. And just feeling how this is in the body as this balancing of these reciprocal points has allowed us to invite a shift. So everything isn't being held on our own shoulders. We can distribute the weight. You don't have to go it alone. Deep breath. Smooth exhale. Beautiful. And we've got another link coming in. We're linking into the large intestines. And there's an emotional release here. And we're releasing the fear of letting it go. So we're releasing the emotion of fear that can sometimes have us holding on. And we're tuning into that natural role of the large intestines, which is to support us in letting go. Opening to a full breath in. Loosening the jaw, opening the mouth on the exhale. Releasing, good. If you want, you can stay with your hands just as they are, or you can join me and bring your hands to the sides of your head so that the palms rest in the temples and the tips of the fingers go towards the back of the head. Focusing here on the emotional processing center of the brain, as well as the temporal lobes. And just taking a few breaths as we tap all of this in, balancing the body chemistry, tuning into your own intuition with the flow of your breath, with noticing if the mouth wants to be open or closed. Feeling with each exhale into the groundedness of self as we just tap this in. Beautiful. And bringing the hands back down onto the body or into your lap. Just noticing how this feels here and now. Beautiful. And what's coming in is that we're working with an essence of the Bach flowers. And I don't know this off the top of my head, so Marjorie might be able to assist us in this, but the essence is coming in from the Bach flowers, so I'm not sure if it's one or more, but we're being resourced with hope. So coming from any fear or sense of like despair that we might have felt into hope. So
Yeah, gentian is coming in.
Gentian. Beautiful. So just taking a deep breath and imagine feeling the gentian, the essence, this Bach flower essence, the vibration of gentian in the field, coming into your breath, coming into your body, and exhaling. Good. Inviting a full breath. Releasing. Just following this vibration, this sound, inviting a gentle transition whenever that feels ready. There's no rush. And so just want to take a moment and invite any insights, reflections, comments, shares. If there's anything here.
Thank you, Becca. I could definitely feel some heavy thing right here in the shoulders, eventually being lifted up, but I could feel the heaviness of everything, and it really resonated for me with everything. Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Having to do it alone, so thank you for that.
Right. And with that, if anyone else can resonate with this feeling now or in the future, knowing that these points, right, that we tapped out today, these are reciprocal points. It's like we call it a plumb line that runs from one to the other across the body. And we could also do it on the back of shoulder, back of hip. But that was really all coming in with this today. But just know, like, here's another tool. You can tune in with this. I think everybody here tonight, which may not be everyone that's registered or everyone that ends up seeing this event, but there is a body talk practice called cortices, right? So whenever we bring in something like these reciprocal points, if we're not doing it in a little energy medicine activation or body talk session like we just did, it can be really beneficial to bookend it with the cortices. So we tap cortices, we hold those reciprocal points, we can even tap that in, which means tapping overhead, heart, and abdomen. It's kind of this waterfall flow, and then tapping cortices again. So right there, another tool. And I just want to ask, and we're going to close in just a moment. So just so everybody knows, we're, aware of the time, and we're going to let everybody out on time. But could you share with us, and maybe, if there's anything else about gentian that you would share that would be nice for us to know?
Yeah. Well, two flower came, but it was a little, and I was so into what I was feeling. So I was
Sorry to
like,
put you on the spot that
I need to come back.
way.
No, that was perfect. That was perfect. Yeah, gorse was coming too, but then gentian kind of took over. So gorse, those two are very interesting, but gorse is when there is this sense of hopelessness. But it's more an energy of giving up. We have given up. There's really no hope and no looking for getting any better. Gentian is a little step. That's why it kind of took over. There can be a wave of desperation coming and kind of discouragement and despair, but the hope is still there. It's not completely lost, right? So it helps us, get that little boost again to keep going. Right. So yeah, gentian is really beautiful to accompany us when, we have little setbacks, little challenges. We're starting to wonder if we should continue, we get this little wave of this discouragement. So that's what gentian is about.
Yeah,
To
beautiful.
trust, to bring the faith also back, right?
Yeah, powerful,
Mm.
powerful. And that piece, right, to trust and whatever was coming up just felt so powerful around like trusting that it's okay to be vulnerable, right? Because to ask for help, even to reach out and say, I'm not sure what Bach flower, or how do I be mindful when XYZ is going on in my life? How do I be responsive? How do I show up aligned? Like, to ask that, there's a vulnerability. And so, going back into that awareness is the door to choice, and that non-judgment is the door to our awareness, right? Because when we're judging ourselves for it, it's so hard to see because we don't want to see it, right? When it's like, okay, we can also say, of course, I don't want to see it, and it's here, right? Thank you all for being here. Thank you, Marjorie, for everything that you share. This was absolutely incredible.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for showing up.
Yeah. There will be the email going out with all the resources, everything that Marjorie was sharing tonight. You'll get the link to the recording, all the goods. So if any questions arise or any things that reach out, you know how to reach us, and we'll go from
No more
there.
excuses now, reach out. Thank you
Right.
for the piece on receiving also, Becca. It was big for me. So thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Mhm.
Well, have a beautiful evening. Good night.
Bye. Thank you so much.
You're welcome
Thank you. Good night.
for being here.